Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I hope you're doing great as always. Today I'm going to be editing some real estate photographs which I captured on a shoot today. I want to get these done in the next hour or so, so let's crack into it. This video is going to be a time lapse and then I'm going to stop it at certain points and talk about what I'm doing and what techniques I'm using in Lightroom to edit these photographs. So let's crack into it. So for this composition here, you can see it's quite dark in the walk-in wardrobe and it's quite bright outside. So I'm definitely going to be using the brush tool to adjust this. But first what I'm going to do is bring up the shadows as much as possible to save all that detail. I'm going to put some clarity into the image and now I'm going to play around with the brush tool. So firstly what I'm going to do is just decrease the size of the brush and I'm simply just going to go in here and paint over the wardrobe just to the door frame. Try not to go over it too much. Probably about there's good, and I'm just going to play around till it looks about right where I want it to be. So I'm really happy with how this looks. We can see everything in the shadows and in the highlights outside. As you can see up here, the light up here is pretty overexposed. So what I'm going to do is use a brush tool and just gently paint over that. And I'm going to bring down the exposure, bring down the highlights as well, just until I can see a bit more detail there. Probably not 67, I'll make that 45. And select done, and just shows a little bit more detail of the actual light there. And that looks good. So here is a shot of the master's ensuite bathroom. As you can see, the ensuite bathroom is fairly small, so you can see a bit of distortion here on the shower frame. So I'm going to have to apply some lens correction to make that nice and straight. So let's crack into this image. So I've played around with the lens corrections, although you can still see the lines here are on an angle. So what I'm going to do is I am going to bring this into Photoshop. So what I'm going to do here in Photoshop is I'm going to set some guides. I have made a video on how to do this, on how to get straight vertical lines in Photoshop. But here I'm going to give a quick 5-second version. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these guides and I'm going to line them up with all the verticals in the composition. Like so, and then what I'm going to do is go edit, transform and warp, and then here what I'm going to do is simply drag the image until the lines are vertical and where I want them to be. So now this looks fairly good. As you can see that the vertical line there is nice and straight, this one here is nice and straight, and the door here is nice and straight. So I'll just click the tick on that. And that is our composition done for the ensuite bathroom. So jumping back into Lightroom. So now I'm working on a shot here of the kitchen. Now I have a couple of angles to work with. I've got two here which I really like. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just scale this in a bit because I don't really want to show off the cables down here. So we'll just increase that scale. So I'm really happy with how this composition looks. As you can see, I've scaled it in so the cables here are no longer visible. So what I'm going to do now is brighten up the interior. I think the outsides are nice. You know, you can see all the details here. You can see the blue in the sky just a tad. I might just dehaze that just a little bit. So now I'm going to edit the second shot of the kitchen. This just gives the agent another option when choosing which photograph to use for their marketing. So here I have a wider shot showing the kitchen which I was just editing, the dining and a bit of a seating area with a TV to my right which I've just framed out a shot. So I'm going to apply all my usual settings to this image. So here I have an exterior shot of the property just showing off the garage and the little entrance here to the front door. As you can tell, it's a little bit overexposed, so what I'm going to do is try bring back as much of that sky as possible. So and then I'll show you a before and after shot. So here's a before and after shot of the exterior composition. As you can see, I've brought back a lot of that detail in the sky, and I've also increased the shadows and saturation on the house here, really to make it pop out. So that is the before and after shot of the first exterior composition. So here I have a composition of the seating area. As you can see, it's quite dark in the shadows, so what I'm going to do is brighten those up, probably to about 80. And then what I'm going to do is just bring down those highlights by about 20, just to bring that detail back in the sky, maybe just a tad more. Let's bring that up to 35. That looks good there. And then what I'm going to do is bring up the saturation to 15, make that nice green pop. Same with the clarity, just increase that just a tad. White balance looks good there. What I am going to do is just gently brush over this bush here and the seat as it's slightly overexposed. So what I'm going to do is bring back down that exposure to 0, and I'm just going to make it -20 on the highlights so it saves that detail. And that is the composition there of the seating area. So here is the final composition for today. As you can see, this is the kitchen through here with the dining, and this door opens up onto this little patio area. So what I'm going to do is I'm trying to save all that detail in the exterior of the property. As you can see, it's quite bright, and I'm also going to try and make that sky pop nice and blue, as well as bring back all that detail in the shadows. So I'm going to be manipulating this first, and then I'm going to go through and play around with all my other settings. So here is the final edited composition. So what I'm going to do now is export these photographs and upload them and send them off to my clients so they can check them out. Thanks for watching this video. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.